VBP Hot Seat. So at Business Value Partners, we are always talking about the difference or the value of working not only in your business, but on your business. And today is very much an example of working on your business. So in your business is obviously doing the doing. On your business is working around, very much around the strategic planning, building alliances and partnerships, scaling and growing, creating systems, but most importantly, having the time to think about your business. Yeah? I often talk to leaders over the years about building thinking time into their everyday, and they say, I don't have time to think. You know, that's madness. Or they say, well, if I sit and think, people are going to think I don't know, I'm not doing anything. So, you know, that's not going to look very good. So, it is very important to build thinking time into your everyday business because successful leaders make time to think. Warren Buffett, Tim Armstrong and Bill Gates all build thinking time into their everyday and into their week, and they encourage their leaders to do so as well. So it's equally as important to think about the advice and the questions that you are thinking about. When you run a business, everybody wants to give you advice, from the postman to your mother. They all want to tell you how to run your business, yeah? So it's important that we have advice and we're being asked the right questions by really solid and trustworthy counsel. So this then helps and encourages our thinking. So the rhetorical question for the day is, how much time do you spend working on your business rather than in your business? Yeah? So how the hot seat is going to work is I'll introduce firstly our panel of sector specialists, and there'll be 6 of them today, and then I'll introduce our hot seat participant who has kindly volunteered to sit in the hot seat. Then we'll learn, our hot seat participant is going to ask us 2 strategic questions over the afternoon, and our panel of sector specialists will provide him with their thoughts and advice and give him that thinking time to work on his business. And then we'll wrap it all up, we'll have a break, and then we'll go to some roundtables where you get to ask some strategic questions of our panel of experts. But I'll talk to you more about that as we go through. We have done some prep with our hot seater, so it's not cold. So don't think that he's just cold sitting in the hot seat. We have done some prep around the questions. And we do have, Robert is going to scribe for him so that he doesn't have to kind of...
Don't say too much, mate.
So he doesn't have to worry about capturing it. But I want you, as we go through the afternoon, I want you to think about how these questions that our experts and panel specialists ask, how they relate to you and your business, yeah? And really put yourself in that working on your business situation. Make sense? Yep. Okay, so let's hear from let's meet our sector specialists. So first and foremost, we have Rachel Audiger, who is from Systematic Inventive Thinking, beg your pardon. And her sector specialist is around innovation and creative problem solving. We have Peter Lay from Highline. His area of expertise is debt advisory. Daniel Gallantz from Willis Towers Watson, whose specialist is risk insurance. Andrew Barr from Project Resource Partners, who is our recruitment services specialist. Andy Rook from Grey Matters Business Advisory, who is our strategic advice, coaching and advisory board specialist. And then I will play a dual role in my capacity on my business, which is First Here First, around leadership and leadership teams. So, can I ask our specialists to come out? Excellent. Thank you, guys. going to look at today, and we're going to talk to Mark Wilson. I'll introduce Mark in a minute. We do have a very short video that shows exactly what his business does, and then when I introduce Mark, we'll ask him to share his personal journey on his business.
TSA is a full-service civil infrastructure and construction company that prides itself on turnkey capabilities. Their project management, exacting admin, and coordinated client planning generates the kind of outcomes best defined by their slogan, "Make it happen." TSA's skilled workforce is experienced in the use of highly specialised equipment that deliver the desired result, regardless of the challenge.
We work on all types of civil infrastructure and we love what we do. TSA, we make it happen.
Whatever the work environment, TSA's project management and major civil infrastructure skills and experience deliver above and beyond expectation. Their fully independent concreting and asphalting division cover a range of applications regardless of project size, scope or complexity. A permanent reinstatement team ensures immediate availability and extensive experience across a wide range of remedial work. TSA collaborates with power authorities and local councils to facilitate 4G and 5G small cell installations, NBN overbuilds and complex fibre work.
Telecommunications network for the future. TSA, we make it happen.
A Master Electricians Association membership and on-staff A-grade electricians means they can complete a wide range of commercial and industrial electrical projects. TSA is an exclusive supplier and installer of premium German-engineered security systems. Their own fleet of Vic Roads accredited traffic management vehicles allows for complex planning capabilities.
Our traffic management fleet support a safe working environment.
This is TSA.
As you can see, TSA has what it takes to make it happen. So if you'd like to join a long list of satisfied clients, contact them today and they'll make it happen for you.
Oh my goodness, I love that video. Come join us, Mark. Can I just ask Brendan Ferrugia, did you make that video?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Lovely. That's why I like it.
Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah. So welcome, Mark,
Thank
to our
you,
hot
Lindy.
seat. Can you just to start us off, can you share with us a little bit about your business and your journey to actually running this successful business? Just to
Yeah.
give us some
Well, I'll
context.
try. Just want to start off with I'm a little bit disappointed in the sense I thought it was Millionaire Hot Seat.
Oh.
All
Right,
night I've been working on American presidents in the capital cities. But, my company started as electricians, domestic and commercial electricians. Way back when, I was once a flight attendant. As a qualified electrician first, became a flight attendant after that. Decided to go into my own business right when Paul Keating said this is a recession we have to have, and so it was a great start. Not really. So for the next sort of 10 years, I meandered around looking at different options in electrical works, commercial, shop fitting, not so much high-end construction, but mid-range commercial work. And in the early noughties, I was doing a prime life development in Mornington, where we had a bunch of electricians working there. And the infrastructure from the street to the properties, wasn't finished to get the power and water to the properties. So for the life of me, I couldn't find an excavator operator to come and do that for us. So in the end, I ended up buying my own excavator. Still don't know how to use one, but bought my own 2-ton Komatsu excavator, and we decided to dig our own trenches and put our own underground power in from the pits and the footpath to the property. I'm going to fast track a long way forward. From that, we started doing that similar type of work for other electricians, for other builders, and I put a flyer, a coated flyer, I call it a laminated one, flyer, in every electrical wholesaler and plumbing supplies in the whole of Victoria, and just drove around and during the week and at nights and slip them under doors, and we built up a client base from there. From there, we ended up with a contract with Power and City Power, putting all the electrical supply pits in. And we still have those contracts now. We're in our third term contract with those. We work for major power companies like Gemini, Power Cause, City Power. We morphed from what we dig up to reinstating, as you saw in the video. So we now, rather than relying on other people to create trip hazards for us in the street, we do our own asphalting and concreting, and we have our own traffic management which supports our business, and we've grown into major civil now. So fast tracking a long way forward. We probably have, from that one Komatsu excavator and a long way forward from that video, we probably have 70 vehicles on the road, got 17 excavators ranging from 23 tonne down to 1.7 tonne, 14 tip trucks, hydro excavation trucks. You want to see those big things look like garbage trucks on the road. They're non-destructive digging, so they protect the environment in the way of not damaging tree roots or any other infrastructure in the ground. And so that's where we pretty much are today, with 85 in-house employees, 18 admin in the office, and then we have a panel of subcontractors that help us out as well.
Lovely. Beautiful.
Not too much, Rob, not too much talking. Is that it?
Great, mate.
Thank you. Did you get all that? Did you get all that?
Beautiful. Excellent. Okay, so thank you, Mark. That was really, really valuable. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our first question. Oops. So we're going to ask Mark to share with us his first question. Then we'll have a bit of questions from, just to clarify the question. I'll capture the question on the whiteboard. Then we're going to hear from our sector specialists. They're going to give some advice and options to Mark. And then we'll ask Mark to just give us a debrief on what that was, how valuable that was. Make sense?
Okay.
Okay, so can you share with us your first question?
So here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
So with our continued business growth and opportunities available in the infrastructure sector, with the big build and everything else going on, besides cash flow, which is the root of all evil for most businesses, my major concern in my business is risk and compliance. So a serious incident or an accident to any person, property or environment can severely damage a business's integrity and reputation, and which could bring all this down, all the years of hard work, if we slip up in that area. My question is, how do I instill in my management and staff that this is the #1 priority in our business?
Mm-hmm. Any questions from the panel to clarify the question?
Have you had any incidents or issues arise that have directly impacted your business as a result of that lack of support?
We've had incidents, but fortunately we've had the processes, the due diligence to be able to tick the boxes. We've had nothing serious as far as accidents and injuries, touch wood, but we have had what we call service strikes, where we might be digging up a road or boring under a road and hit a gas main or a water main. So that there have been incidents, but yes, we've been lucky and been compliant. When I say lucky, it's not lucky to do that, but being compliant in the sense of when the authorities haul us over the coals, whether it be WorkSafe or any of the major infrastructure owners, they sit us down, there's endless meetings, there's retoolboxing your staff, there's going over your processes and procedures to make sure that we have been mostly diligent in that area.
I think you used the word term, it's not the #1 priority at the moment for your staff. So where does it rank? If you had to sort of...
It's definitely top 5, but it's more a fact that everyone has a checklist every morning, whether they call it a JRA or JSA or a help me Sue, the
JSA.
The work method statements and so forth. They go through all those processes, but how do we make this not a tick and flick? So they're all doing the right thing as far as that goes, but an example of that would be if we have a job that runs 2 days and they've done all their JRAs and their compliance and their swims and all that sort of business on the morning. If we were to go and supervise next day and let me have a look at your JRA, we did that yesterday. Yeah, but the conditions are different today. So the traffic's heavier, it's raining today, it wasn't yesterday. So it's about getting that
So moving it from compliance to commitment to safety.
Commit and care,
And
and actual care.
Okay,
Yeah.
understand.
Just two questions. Are you okay for us to generically call it safety? Can we call it safety, or
Yeah,
do you want
absolutely.
to stay with that
Absolutely.
so safety?
Yeah, yeah.
And secondly, what is your KPI for safety right now? What are you currently asking?
It's injuries and incidents. Yeah, that's
Zero.
basically
So
it.
lag
Zero.
indicator.
Yeah, it's lag indicators, yes.
So specifically, you're saying 0 injuries?
Oh, what it is actually? Oh, sorry.
No. What is your expectation? What's the target?
Yeah, 0.
0.
It's absolute 0.
Cool.
How's it managed at the moment in terms of from a people?
So we have line managers for each of those divisions that we talk about, and we have regular toolbox meetings, as they call them, and each toolbox meeting they will have one particular area that we'll focus on. So we find without denigrating any socio-economic person, we find with certain levels of employee, you can't bombard them with too information in a meeting. It just doesn't work. It seems they switch off, they look out the window, they're on their phones. So it's about picking one particular, whether it be their PPE, whether it be their observation, whether it be trench depths, whether it be locating of other services, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just two questions. You painted a picture of this clearly potentially adversely impacting business viability.
Yes.
That's a pretty, without dressing it up, that's exactly what it is, right?
yes.
I'm curious why you think that hasn't resonated with your staff, because clearly the consequences of not having a business anymore is going to be directly impacted. And the second one is in terms of other stakeholders and the importance of safety in your dialogue with them. So stakeholders beyond your staff.
Yeah, so your first point, I'm generalising, it's not everybody, but it's about, and for some it's about the pay, it's about getting home as quickly as they can, it's about, not having to do any more hours than is absolutely necessary, which creates shortcuts. It's about looking like the job's done properly when it's actually not. So your question was why?
Why do you think it doesn't resonate with them, given you've painted a picture that if something really goes wrong,
Yeah, it affects the business. Affects the business. I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. And and sometimes in not so much in middle management or admin, at the boots on the ground level, it's a really fluid workforce. We'll have 30% of that will be there for a long time, but the rest is very fluid, and I think there's a real lack of care in that sense.
I'll just say, Mark, sounds like a culture thing as well. It's
Yeah.
a culture thing within the industry, similar industries, I get that. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
to have a create a culture that
Yeah.
instills the safety, not just ticks the boxes.
Yeah, that's right. And when we were a lot smaller, Jade was like that. It was when we had 20 or 30 boots on the ground, it was a lot easier to manage. But as it grows, we need a more structured, overarching method or approach. When we were smaller, we'd have barbecues Friday mornings when we could have chat.
That direct interaction.
Yeah, the direct interaction.
Yeah.
Take coffees out to jobs, do all those sorts of things, and have that real, chat to them all the time about what's important and what care you should take. But you can't do that with so many, so.
Why?
Sorry?
How does education work within the business at the moment on it?
It's just constant toolboxing, constant reaffirmation. Yeah. I heard someone call out why before. It's more about ones that slip through the cracks. It's not the whole kit and caboodle. There are a percentage that slip through the cracks in that regard. And
it's finding the right employees because of the employment market as well. Has made
it's a very good point.
Very big impact.
Yeah, the pandemic created a great vacuum good resources, and there's a high turnover.
Can I ask, Mark, culturally, do you think that your employees are comfortable to call out other employees when they see something might be doing wrong, or?
We encourage that.
Yeah.
We certainly encourage that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, I'm not painting a picture about our company of being, you know, low level on that regard. You know, we have employees that come to us and say we're the best company we've ever worked for.
Lovely.
And this never went on at other companies, and you've only got to watch shows like The Block, where you know, they have plasterers come in and don't even have a worksafe policy. You know, it's like, how does this happen? You know, so but,
okay. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so what advice then do we have for Mark as our panel of experts? One at a time? Yeah.
I'm happy to kick it off.
Yep, beautiful.
And fair to say,
You've got 3 minutes each. Sorry.
I think everything that I'm about to say has been touched on by someone, either through a question or by some insights from the audience. But I couldn't agree any more with Jay. I think underpinning all of this is a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift in mindset, and picking up on what you just what you mentioned in terms of the difficulty in employing staff. That's got to start at the interview stage. So you're setting the expectations from the get-go. Look, education, you're already touching on that, but that can take various forms. You know, there's practical aspects of risk. There's, you know, people. I look at risk in terms of education. A lot of it is actually common sense, and when you get struck by or you get stuck into following a process, that's when common sense falls out the window, because you're ticking a box. So you become too process driven. You've already mentioned the skin in the game piece, the KPIs. I'd ask almost a rhetorical question here, or a thought provoker. How serious are those KPIs in terms of not only the lag reporting, but the individual input to a potential outcome from individuals, and whistleblowing policies and things like that are absolutely paramount. I do, you know, I'm in the area of risk and insurance, the fear factor. Using case studies, talking about stories, you know, it might be something that has happened in the business. Have you you know, is there an opportunity to perhaps take those out? You may embellish, you may not, because they might be serious enough. But if it didn't go as positively as it could, where could it have led to? You know, you talk about compliance, that's your ticket to play. You talk about individuals wanting to get home on time, be worried about getting home at all. I'm in a white collar profession, so I get home every day, unless the trains are delayed. But that's the biggest problem I've got, that you've got people's lives in hand from everyone that is involved in your business. And just a last point is, when you're communicating with staff, it absolutely has to be relatable. So I bring it back to the education piece. What you can't do is have white collar people telling blue collar workers how to go about their job. They need to be able to relate and talk in a way that is, you know, received by the staff member.
Beautiful. Thank you. Pete?
Yeah. Firstly, I think you've got a fantastic business.
Thank you.
And so I'm not going to try and give you solutions, because you know 1,000 times more about your business than the collective knowledge in this room. So I'll make some observations from my experience in the finance space of what I've seen of other businesses where they're dealing with other areas of risk, because different risks in different businesses. Right, so spoke about safety being the ticket to the game. I think that's changed for the better in a whole raft of businesses over the last couple of decades. It was mentioned here about what the KPIs and all the rest of it are. A lot of businesses I've seen have actually linked it to remuneration. I think you made mention of staff worried about the next paycheck. Well, some businesses I've seen that they've actually linked it to the hip pocket nerve. With my finance hat on, I know financiers, when they're looking at providing funding to businesses across a whole range of different industries, they're into risk assessment. So the key risk for them is the loan's going to be repaid. So they'll assess the cash flow of the business and what impacts, what are the risks to that cash flow. But more importantly, how management are managing and mitigating those risks. And a final observation I'll make, and this is more sort of macro, is if you look at a whole range of sectors, the dialogue, and this is a cultural thing, the dialogue around risk management becomes part of, this is just how we do things. So for example, and this is going right out on a limb here, right? 30 years ago, in the education space, things like phrases like working with children checks and child protection were basically non-existent. Now that's just par for the course. And at an area closer to home, and Rob Ford will remember this when we were at Bank West together, that was a bank that basically lost its capital base. The problem with banks that make lots and lots of bad debts, they lose money, and if they lose enough, it basically sends them broke. And that's not a good thing for the financial services system. So that led to changes in basically the whole recruitment process. And a final observation in financial services that I've seen of late, not that I'm pushing their barrow, but Judo Bank, who are the disruptor in our industry, are actually assessing potential employees around their particular skills in risk management before they even get a job offer.
Beautiful. Great.
Hey Mark.
Hi.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to give some thoughts on this. I'm in the business of helping people think differently, and bouncing off what you just said, you know, the way we've always done things and so on. I'm really interested in how we challenge assumptions and biases and so on, and scan for them. And have you come across Sydney Decker's work?
No.
Because generally in safety, workers are a problem to solve, and we create guidelines to show them how to work in a certain way, and we measure safety through the absence of negatives. And there's a beautiful quote from Deckers. He says, if you keep people accountable for low numbers of negatives, that's exactly what they'll give you. So I was curious about your KPI, because I think it's a really fascinating. So Deckers is behind a movement called Safety Differently. And I just thought that would be a really interesting thing for you to have a look at, because his premise is to flip the paradigm and to say, could we be turning to people as the solution, which of course is always beautiful. And we heard that already from Daniel, just that whole flip of don't tell them how to do the work, look at how work is actually done. Those shortcuts are done for a reason, mostly. So when they're doing path of least resistance, why? And let's look at it and so on. So that aspect. And get them to tell you how it could be done better rather than us giving them the guidelines. But also be very wary of those KPIs that are about a negative, because we are going to work to that negative, and be very reluctant to bring you anything negative. I remember in corporate days, if we slipped in the kitchen or something, everyone would say, shh, say nothing. Because we just imagined that, you know, in the monthly meeting, you'd have to say, you know, a negative safety figure or a positive safety figure. So that was one thought. Two other things that come to mind as I looked at your website and saw all these opportunities for risk and errors and safety issues, was something my husband was telling me about, which is just a simple little mechanism they have every month, whereby they're asked to take a photo of something dangerous, something that's a near miss, and best practice. And every month they come in with that, and they've actually built a cute little app. But they are there just constantly vigilant, looking for this stuff, because they've got to bring a photo. And it heightens their senses. But they're also obviously going to fix something that's a danger or a bit. So it's really getting it front of mind constantly, because they're going to have to talk about it and share it and so on. And the third one was just a lovely framework as well around behaviour, which is the EAST framework, which is around making something. If you want to change behaviour, it's got to be easy, it's got to be attractive, it's got to be socialised, and it's got to be timely. And there's a lot of work that's been done around using ear protectors and things like that, and there's no point talking about it when people are not receptive to it. So when you're going to tell them to put their friggin' things on or whatever, you do it when they've just walked out of a noisy situation, and so on and so on.
Okay.
So it's that timeliness particularly that's really powerful.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you. I'm going to come at it obviously from a recruitment type expert perspective, and probably from retention as well, in terms of, and looking at it from that culture piece, and that actually comes from having recruited a lot into banking and having Goldman to use everyone's a risk manager, and how you can actually get that through your business as a whole. And I think one of the key things with regards to those types of businesses is how they build it into their recruitment process in terms of asking those questions at interview, and also having it through your, say, the references. So when you're doing references on people, having that built in to that as well. And then I think once those businesses get people on board, what they do is they build it into their KPIs of individuals rather than the company as a whole, and probably try to celebrate it rather than use it as a stick to with people. So have it so, like businesses that I've seen before have used it maybe once a month. What's the thing that happened in terms of, from a safety perspective, that if it hadn't have happened, this would have happened, and celebrate that person who's done that, or that team that's done that, and how that sort of works. And also from an overall business perspective, maybe celebrating zero. So rather than have it, we only bring it up when something's happened. Let's celebrate when it's zero on a regular basis, and people higher the better, and people then want to keep attaining zero. You don't want to be on the team that loses, so to speak. And I think trying to just build it all across.
Thanks, Andrew. Andy?
Mark, I spent 10 years in mining, in the mining industry. I ran a coal mine, so I've only spent probably 10 years every night thinking about this. So to distill it down to 3 minutes would be incredibly challenging. And if it was that easy, every organisation would have nailed it. So a couple of things I learned along the journey. The first one is people don't change behaviour because of facts and figures and rules and regulations. They change because of emotion. So to get people to do something differently, you've got to connect with them on an emotive level. And safety, Daniel made a good point there. Stories build culture, culture changes behaviour. So finding the stories in the organisation, not just you but other people telling stories about that. I used to ridicule it when I'd go to, and I've worked with a lot of large organisations in mining and civil. You know, people start off with safety shares every morning. You might do the same yourself, but over time, what it does do is it brings a culture that just talk about things we're observing, not just in our workplace but in our community, and people talking about the ramifications of where safety hasn't gone well. To give people that emotive trigger to think about before they do something maybe a bit risky, to stop and think. And I remember that guy talked to me about, his friend who didn't wear safety glasses and got a splinter in his eye and lost his eyesight. So that's one of the things we used to focus a lot on. We used to get a lot of guest speakers. We had people from work cover come in wheelchairs and things like that. And they would deliver some really solid first-hand messages to try and get that culture going. Second one is safety is usually about 99% correct, 1% incorrect, and we ignore the 99%. So it's finding people who are doing the right thing and constantly being on the lookout for things people are doing the right thing and acknowledging that. Because again, that shows that you're looking at everything. The disproportionate time we spend on the 1% creates a negative pull around safety. That's why Rachel, a couple of people mentioned about the negativity around it, because we pounce on something that's wrong, but we don't ever give the justice of acknowledging the other 99%. And when you do the 99%, people will accept the 1%'s fair cop. But if you only ever do the 1%, people will see it as draconian, and we're only here to smack people, and safety then gets a reputation around negativity. And the third one is, it goes a bit to culture. Look at your informal leaders in your business. So your informal leaders aren't part of your management structure. They're the ones that, the guys go to in the lunchroom to ask about stuff that they're not too... And look at them and look at their behaviour and just sort of gauge where they're on safety, because they'll also be the ones setting the tone for all the other people outside of the watch of leadership and management. And you don't want to formalise their role by bringing them into the management team and getting them to sort of take formal safety roles, but if you can get into their heads and get them leading safety on an informal basis, because they've got a dog in the fight, you've got a much better chance of permeating through to that level where most of the risky work's done. That's 3 things. There's probably another 10, and I've seen a lot of it, a lot of bad incidents and things, but it's a journey, not a destination.
Thank you.
So I've decided that next time, in the next round, I'm going first because they've just basically covered everything that I was going to say. But essentially, to me, it's very much about your leaders need to lead the way. They're always on show, and what they step over, they endorse. And so they need to be aware constantly that they lead by example. So all of that plus leading the way, I think, is very important. Yeah.
Thank you.
So am I allowed to say something just very quickly or not?
Oh, well, no. If it's quick, because we are on a time frame.
So one of the most experienced safety people I've ever met introduced a culture into the organisation that safety was the #1 item on the agenda for every single meeting. So #1. #2, every single team leader and manager did not get their bonus unless they reported safety incidents. If there was no reported safety incidents, they weren't going to get a bonus. And that's how they've changed the safety culture.
Interesting.
Assuming we give bonuses.
Can I just clarify? They had to have reported some incidents.
They have to report it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So,
Look, Zero's culture.
It's a culture of reporting it.
Yeah. Thank
We
you.
are pressed for time. I know there's lots of questions. Mark, what's your thinking now? Well, has it changed or?
Oh, a lot of great ideas.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of the reverse psychology basically on the thinking around safety. The point about focusing on the 99% that do the right thing.
Yeah.
Celebrating that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
There are many, and I was just sort of, wow, Conchita, this is fantastic. And when I look back over, I'm assuming we're recording this.
Yeah, we are. I'm taking all the notes.
I'll take a lot out of this, and I thank you all. It's been fantastic.
Cool. So we do potentially have time for a question. Yeah? Sorry, Pavel. Yeah, go on.
My name is Tom. I run a business called The Content Engine. We do strategic comms for other businesses. The one thing that every piece of that advice had in common is that it all involves an element of communication. So question for you, rhetorical or otherwise, would be, have you considered your strategic communications plan and execution, taking into account your business objectives and also, as Daniel touched on, the particular segments that you have within your business and how best to communicate to them?
We feel like we have it at a reasonably good level. We do have management meetings, middle management meetings, down to each division, reaffirming the communication of this all the time. For me, it's about, like I said, we're not down here when it comes to safety. For me, it's about how can we do much better. Just keep doing better, keep evolving. What's different out there, the different approach that we're not doing. So we just want to find that edge that puts us ahead of the game, and also our competitors.
Pavel?
Yeah, just a quick one. I was sort of fascinated because just in the industry, I'm glad to hear you're part of Master Electricians, because I think being part of the broader industry group is important as part of drawing some of that knowledge on the other side. I head up NICA, but very interesting question that you posed, because it's actually a question that comes up a lot in our own membership with other electrical businesses. It's one of the things that keeps people awake. The three things that I guess keep coming back as themes as people brainstorm this kind of stuff for our own membership are, and it touches on many of the things that it's not because it's groundbreaking. However, employee ownership, a lot of what was said, how you package that up, if you drive it through committees and actually make the people at the grassroots own some of those outcomes as opposed to going top down, that's a very live conversation with a lot of our members in terms of what they're trying, especially that sort of medium sort of space where it's the culture's pretty tight. So having that champion sort of hat on really drives the dynamic of pushing it down and just words versus they actually own it and therefore they're driving the different aspects of it. So that's one across our industry. The other one that I sort of captured there is engaging safety to training, and I think that was mentioned before, and Tom, to your point as well, how you communicate that, and modality is something that's coming up more and more, i.e. how do you get that message out? And video is starting to, but video and role play is starting to be one of those things that people are starting to play with a lot more, particularly role play. Because that goes to the heart as opposed to just in one ear out the other. I'm thinking of something. The third one I had, just in terms of some of the recent chats we had, very similar with a lot of our members, is measurement and reward, particularly the reward, because measurement, I think that's been covered. But how you reward people for the right behaviour, and again, I think that's sort of come through. But in terms of what a lot of other companies in your situation are going through, or leaders in your company, situation going through, they're probably the three that we're seeing at an industry level that are getting a lot of thought and or discussion right now in terms of moving the needle. So just in case that's sort of relevant in packaging up some of those great ideas that you get.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just answer that. I think, driving it up from the bottom of it, there's got to be some processes involved in that. It'll be interesting to learn your views on those processes as well. You touched on a couple of things that our panel said before about celebrating the good things. There was one that slipped my mind, but
and the mode of delivery.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big one, because you're probably already doing it, but shifting it up a bit so it's not
exactly.
I
think Andy meant the emotion about it, talking about being emotive about what's involved and what's required, rather than the white collar and waving the stick on the.
And Daniel was also talking about insights that comes through. We've seen it in mainstream television, things like work safety, where the big insight was it's not about you, it's about the people you love. It was huge and very impactful, and Dumb Ways to Die. They were big cut-through safety campaigns.
Beautiful. Any? Yep. Fine. Yep. Beautiful. Okay. So thank you, Mark. That was great. Hopefully that was helpful.
Absolutely. It was.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to move on to our second strategic question now. There we go. Okay, so Mark, do you want to share?
So it's a completely different subject.
Okay.
So
beautiful.
My appeal to some, not the others. So being a sole director of my business, I'm now in my early 60s, and my only offspring choosing a career in law, nothing to do with construction. What are my options when it comes to succession planning, whilst being mindful of protecting my wonderful managers and staff?
Any questions from the panel?
Pandora's box, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is a question session, isn't it? So,
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Crystal ball gazing. Say it was 5 years' time, or even longer, and by then you're out of business. What would success look like for you in terms of you
personally or business?
For both, for you and for TSA.
Success would be healthy and debt-free, and set up for my finishing years, and the business, I want to see it everywhere. I want to see it grow when I'm gone. I want to see it very visual. I'm very proud of the brand, I'm proud of what we've created, and it would tear my heart out to see it go down from where it is now.
So it's your legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want my people to be proud of what they've created as well.
Do you have a timeline in place?
Not exactly, no. I always said that I'd never retire because I hate fishing and can't play golf.
That's it.
If there's no acquisition of my business, I'd still like to be involved and annoy them a couple of days a week. Forever and a day.
Yeah.
But that's where I see myself really.
Can you tell us what options you've already explored? Because you're asking your questions about options. Have you already done a lot of work?
Yeah, so I've done some planning on not actually selling my business or having. I've done some work with people on being sell ready. So I had an inquiry about my business about 2 years ago, and that gave me a real sort of jolt about, you know, what do I have to do? Are we compliant tax-wise? Are we compliant? Has that cash flow? Do I take too many directors' fees? Is this going to affect the whole overall picture of having people looking inside my business? And they've found massive holes in it, which is not now. They've been a lot of them have been tidied up, and because, you know, I've come from, you know, a two-man show electrician 1989 to this now. I've had no business training. I've just learned along the way. So now we have an in-house accountant, we have good management staff, and we have risk and compliance officer, we have an occupational health and safety officer, we have a lot of what they call ticking the boxes for the multipliers, I guess. So so I have looked around that. I've looked at share offers for my key people, look at that option, I've gone down that track.
Any other clarifying?
Yeah, have you thought about what the next person in your role looks like?
Yeah, a bit smarter. No, not exactly. No, I haven't. I have some wonderful people in our business, and there are many good opportunities for those key people. But no, I haven't. I haven't actually essentially looked at my particular role, because I've actually listened to, you know, been to a lot of these sort of forums, and over the years I've always thought that when I first was introduced to Rob, I said to him, "I'm not into this rah-rah stuff." He goes, "That's not like that, mate, it's not like that." I said, "But I'm interested if I can take 5% out of every session, I'm happy." So I learnt those things along the way, and I've also learnt to let go. So I could walk away tomorrow and these great people can look after my business, and I'm very fortunate in that sense. I'm not, you know, my phone rings not very often these days, and it's normally about football or when we're doing lunch again. So I'm lucky in that regard. So So I guess that's a planning in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Any other questions from Mark? Yeah.
Well, he answered the question I was just about to ask, which was you walked away.
Yeah.
Can you make yourself redundant? Sounds like you can.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to feel. You feel it
Emotionally.
Yeah, you feel emotionally.
Yeah. It is hard to let go.
Do you worry about regretting your decision after the fact? So if you were to walk away, do you think there'd be a disconnect that you might regret later?
I wonder what I'm going to do next. Yeah, I do. I do. In a sense, I do. I do worry a little. Yeah, about having regrets about it. But I haven't done that yet. So it's like I use a really bad analogy. It's like, you know, having a bad girlfriend. You know you've got to let it go, but you just can't. I'll borrow your pen. One of these days it's got to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm happily married, by the way.
Getting some good advice here, Mark.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Your first one.
Well, I was going to open it to the floor. We heard. Wow. What reflections do we have as a panel in regard to Mark's issue, do we think? Well, come on.
As in what reflections or what questions?
Well, do you have any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
What do you really want?
What do I really want?
Ooh.
Girlfriend.
Enough drama in my life. What do I really want? I really want the company to go on being successful and growing as it is. I'd like one of either two options for key people to, like I said, to buy into the business and to leave me with a 51% share of the business maybe, and the rest I would like to derive dividends from the business as it goes forward, and then me go on my merry way and perhaps chair a board and or the other option, I'm open to it. If someone wants to offer me mega millions for my business, I'll take it.
Okay.
But in the same vein, relax, girls. Protecting my key people as well.
Yeah.
Mind, I've said this to my general manager. I said if someone walked in and bought the business, they would want to lock you in for 5 years because I don't have anything to do with it, really, like you do.
Well set up.
Do you, I was going to ask a question about trust, but I think it's more about, do you believe that someone else could do as good a job as you?
I actually think we can do better. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's not just human.
No, it's not.
You really believe that?
No, it's not. And I think, and I don't know whether the girls up here in my business will attest to this as well, but I think I'm very open to people's ideas in the business, new innovations. I'm not stubborn when it comes to, I'll look at the bottom line. You know, as long as it's not going to cost me too much, I'm happy to grow, I'm happy to listen to your ideas. So, no, I'm not concerned about that. So, yeah.
Do you have somebody in mind already
To do what?
to take over? Like if you had is there someone on your leadership team perhaps that would be a natural successor to you? You don't have to name them.
No, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what qualities do they have that you think would they be successful doing that job, doing your job?
Very afraid of failure.
Yeah. Is that a good quality?
It's compassionate. It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's not aggressive or steadfast. It's very compassionate, very caring. Would you agree with that, Sue?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. But they have a big fear of failure.
They have a big fear of failure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
I think it can be because it gets them up early in the morning and keeps them going during the day. It makes them an extra mile.
Well, it can be a motivator, but it can
Yeah,
also be a
Make them very averse.
Exactly right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think
So,
there's two ways of looking at that.
There is.
You can,
I don't. It's not necessarily saying it's the be all end all right thing. But, yeah.
Fear of failure is not a bad start, but if it's just that increment above where it needs to be, that perfectionism can be completely fruitless as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's like so many things in the sweet spots.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is a.
And it's very difficult, the whole thought process behind it, because I've got here through resilience. 20 years ago, the problems I face today, I've been in a fetal position on the lounge room floor, rocking back and forward, thinking, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do tomorrow? But it's very different now. So you look at things that have a different perspective on the way you look at things. And you look at somebody who you think is potentially the next person to lead the business. They're not my age. They don't have that, knock-on effect of what the experience or the resilience. Yeah.
The psychological strain, high watermark is obviously lower than yours.
Yes, absolutely.
The high watermark is higher, so it's like
Good way of putting it.
copying those numbers and saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I just add, there's nothing wrong with having a fear of hurting somebody or injuring somebody. Like when you have a business like
Absolutely.
that kind of failure
Yeah.
has that's a totally different risk to take than
Yeah.
like some other risk that has no deaths or injuries
True.
involved in it.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think that's sometimes that fear
Yeah.
of failing in that way is a good thing to
Yes. Yeah.
to have. And so can I just add, just flipping Wendy's question, who don't you want? It might be a good way of figuring out who you don't want to buy the business, so you know who to say no to and the personalities to say no to. Then you might find the
It'd be external that wouldn't look after my people. I don't find, if it's an acquisition, it has to be the right acquisition for me. My people have to be protected and looked after, and the brand I'm really passionate about. So it would be something that I'd have to assess.
So you've mentioned a few times the word key people.
Yeah.
But then you've also mentioned that you've had people that have said to you and or have said externally how great business you've got.
Yeah.
Could there be people within the business that are not necessarily in management, but you've got quite a lot of staff that have been there with for so long that in a sense could be some key people that
you could potentially flip it on its head and offer the whole majority of them ownership, maybe not necessarily voting rights, but just so they then share in the next.
To actually solve both problems that way.
Yeah.
I could see as well.
So we do.
Something to look at.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I think one of the questions asked earlier, we'll make it about us just for the next few minutes, but one of the questions asked earlier was, what do you want? And I think even with the questions flying around the room and some of the responses you're giving, and this is, trust me, this is not a criticism, but from where I sit, I'm not sure you exactly know what you do want. But the reason, or maybe a way around that, is you don't have that crystal ball, or you don't have the pathway to either you staying in. If you bring it back to whether you stay in or out of the business, because once you understand that, then you can dig deeper into either option. But maybe you need to start thinking about exploring both options to its, to the end result, which will help you then understand and somewhat, in your own mind, let it start to materialise in your own mind to see, can you stay away from the business, or are you going to have that regret?
That's something I probably need to be trained in myself, I think. So, it's a personality trait with me.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I've been a barman and a flight attendant, an electrician, and a business owner.
Yeah.
And I'd still like to learn how to play guitar and learn another language. But I don't feel like there's an end game for me. But at some point, I need to explore that.
And I've never been a business. I've been a small business owner with my wife, but I've never been a sort of medium business owner. But I do know, and I hear it from time to time. All business owners should have an exit strategy. And I know that, to your point, there's specialists out there that can actually help you down that path.
Well, like I said, I am going through a process of getting it sell ready.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually answer the question where I am.
It's the elephant in the room, because without that thing pulling you, the other stuff's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So unless you figure out what it is that you truly want to do, then the stuff's not going to happen.
I guess the other elephant in the room is your family. And I'm in exactly the same situation as yourself, similar age. My wife was the chief home person and reared my children and sacrificed her professional career. And you're happily married. And I don't really want to pry into the personalities, but are you including your wife? And your son.
Yeah.
I guess they mean a lot to you by the sound of things. So how are they being involved?
Yeah, good point. Yeah. We do have those open. We have those discussions openly. So it's not not a selfish thing really. So
I was going to jump on that. You said your child that you had decided to step into law and whatnot. Is there a reason that you ever thought about sending it that way?
Well, I like telling this little anecdote. Second excavator I bought, I had a little factory in West Heidelberg, and he said he was doing VCE, and he said, "Dad, can I go and use the printer at work?" I said, "Sure, give me a lift round, no problem." Walked in the side door, and you know how kids love toys, the big machines and toys, and climb all over them? I said, "Look, Mitch, I've got a new Kubota 3.5 tonner." He said, "Pretty cool, Dad." Just kept walking straight. Never showed me. Never showed me. Slightest bit interested. Now he says to me, "What's the P&L like this month?"
You could run a business.
Okay, so can I now ask our panel to give your reflections? So you've got 3 minutes each to talk about your reflections on what you've seen and in the world of your area of expertise and how that applies to Mark's issue. Go Phil.
Did you want to start?
No.
You want to start?
No, I know.
Sure,
No.
you did it.
Andy, you can start.
Mark, I think you've got yourself brilliantly set up, and you've done all the hard work, and the icing on the cake from most businesses is being able to then round out that this last stage with your business ownership and finding a way to exit it, whilst dealing with the question I asked you, what you really want. What I heard was you really want to stay involved with an ownership of 51%. You really want to get a dividend flow, so there's some money coming out of it, but you want to be the director or managing director and sit on the board of it. So it seems to me you've got sort of a desire to stay involved loosely and to chaperone or shepherd through maybe the next stages before you do a final exit. And I think it's now you finding the support, the help, and challenging yourself mentally on how quickly you want to do that to get to your dream outcome. Okay, thank you.
I'd come to the people piece for me is probably the key part in terms of working out what your successor looks like and what are the key attributes in that person and how you go about finding those. And for me, doing that is a lot of meeting people and actually working out, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? How does that look? So that when the time comes, and it comes back to probably, I'd say the same for someone who's looking for a new job, which you're obviously not, but it's much easier to do when you're in a job than when you're out of it, meaning it's harder to do when there's a burning bridge.
Yeah.
So if there becomes a burning bridge and you haven't thought about that stuff, then that all of a sudden becomes that much more difficult. And I think you need to think about that now, and the more people that you're meeting who you think can do it, and that could be who does it at competitors, who are target places that I could look at, who could do it internally, and looking at it from the different options you've got available. So you've got a person who is the right DNA to do that.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Andrew. Great.
I was thinking about what the different paradigm is this time. And I wonder whether we don't fixate on succession planning as though it's a moment in time. And you have nuanced that by saying I might stay in there. Isn't every leader's role to ensure business continuity? I mean, unless you're shutting the thing down. So surely everything you do is about empowering and creating a space where the business can go on. And maybe the play is to understand what is crucial to your business and play out the absence of it. So when you do piss off for 2 weeks, what happens? Where do things crumble and how do you need to supplement? Just slowly build all those processes. So whether it's you or anyone else, or anything else, if internet's crucial to your business. I guess just really crash testing the absence of anything, because it's business continuity that matters. I feel as though we're fixating a little bit on you and your personal life, when you might have something very fluid happening when you're sort of in, out, consulting, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's business continuity, not a hangover at any point in time.
Sure. That I've come across, and I think it's becoming more and more common where the next generation doesn't show interest in the business. There's a whole variety of reasons for that. I've got an agricultural background, and when things are a lot better on the land at the moment, but there was a running joke in the middle of the drought that the latest form of child abuse is to leave your farm to your son. I think that's changing. But the themes I'm hearing, Mark, is you did say you don't open to the idea of taking a big check and walking away. I don't believe you. I think you were so emotionally invested in this. So my observations, you want to stay involved in some capacity. You want to make sure your staff are all looked after. It's almost like they're an extension of your family, the sort of language you're using, which I think is wonderful. But you also want to leave a legacy, and I think you're really, really curious about just how successful this business could be with a new generation management, leadership, but with you having some sort of involvement as a mentor or whatever. So
it's absolutely small.
So in terms of putting the in the square box finance hat on, this is a textbook management buyout example, which is, and structuring it's the easy part in terms of how you structure the shareholding, deferred considerations, all that sort of thing. From the business you describe, finances would be falling over themselves to get involved.
So from a leadership perspective, over the years I've seen many people talk about something that they want for years and years, and then when they're handed it, they basically shit themselves. Yeah? And they think, oh my God, I'm not really sure about this, and they fall to pieces. So, and I'm certainly not suggesting that's the case with you. However, it can sometimes, like, we can talk about something that we want, but then is it really what you want? And how are you going to manage that personally from your own perspective? I also see leaders, and now I've lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. So I often talk to leaders about empowering, okay, their people. So empowering is 50% the person owning it, but it's also 50% the leader letting go. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so how much do you let go of the ownership of this business? Have you, and you don't need to answer this, but have you let go so far to be able to transition that step back? And if, you know,
Getting out of their way.
it is, yeah, it's exactly that, getting out of people's way. And then, you know, like the guy said, defining just what it is that you want, but then being ready emotionally to take that step. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because this is your baby.
Yeah,
it's like giving away your firstborn.
Yeah.
I, however, would like to give away my firstborn. You know, some people less so. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I know.
Mark, what would you do with a lot of money?
Probably buy a Sonata Ford, Rob. My wife and I have aspirations of, we love projects, love hobby stuff. We'd like to just develop properties, domestic properties.
What about a farm? I've got one here for sale.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't help but jump in. I actually presented a workshop this morning on this very topic. So, and the summation really is around certainly your business and your business readiness, but the personal readiness and your financial readiness and your family readiness. 4 legs of the stool. Because you might be happily married and your wife says, fabulous, but I know better or worse, but not for lunch. So, yeah. And I guess personal sense, I've had the good fortune to have been through this 3 times. You know, and the whole process is part of it is very emotional. So not to be undervalued, to go through that. And the time, I spend more time with my clients around those personal and family issues than around anything else. Yeah. So not to be undervalued in terms of the thinking that you need to put in place.
And to your point, the sense of identity.
Yeah, sense of
incredible
identity
sense of identity. Who are you as a person, and how much has it become the founder of?
That's right. Yeah. You are you. It's not a case of, I often tell the story of my uncle.
I thought Super ran the business.
Similar situation.
Mark, I think, it's building on that, one thing I've learned, so advisory boards, and I draw on all of the retired business owners and retired C-suite people, and what I've learned from that is that people, when they sell a business or when they leave a C-suite job, let's call it, they lose their sense of purpose and their sense of belonging. And I think if you discovered or found another one, you would find it maybe easier to transition, because at the moment your whole sense of purpose and what you're deriving from the business is fueling it. And you just gave an insight to that question before about doing residential developments and things like that, and so that might be your 5th career. And it's finding that sense of purpose might free you up, because you're obviously some tension there about letting go. But if you found this next purpose, you might find a lot easier to move through through what you've got at the moment.
Part of it is that you're actually in the perfect position that I'd like to be in one day, but you've actually got time, you've got no financial impediments, and you've got a team. So why not set it up now as a structure where you've got nothing to lose? You promote someone to co-CEO, you step back, you put a board in place, and you can actually just see how it goes for a year. And you say, if you're slowly drifting away and you're fine with it, let it be. If you're slowly drifting away and you hate it, you just dismantle it. Like, you don't have to change ownership structure, you don't have to put share plans in place, and you can just sort of keep as much of it the same, but that gives you some optionality. And then you can see what it's like, taste the other side, and go, hey, I like this, push through, or hey, I don't like this, guys, we're going back to the old way. And you actually haven't committed yourself too far.
Almost like rent before you buy it.
Fake it till you make it.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm just having fun. So you said it wouldn't be fun.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, all good.
So in doing exec search, one of the common things I do is finding CEOs for previous owners, and it's probably one of the highest risk assignments that I would do. It's one of the hardest to do, and it only works probably 50% of the time. One horror story I had was that there was an owner of a business, and we got employed as CEO, and I said to him, we're not going to do this assignment unless you agree to step away. So I was agreed to step away, so I did the assignment, he stepped away, and within 3 months he was back and sacked the CEO. And he couldn't keep his hands off it. He couldn't keep his hands off the tools. It doesn't sound like that's for you. That doesn't sound like you, because you already started to do that.
Yeah.
But it is one of the highest risk assignments to do from a search perspective.
Yeah.
Imagine.
So, Mark, where's your thinking now?
Solved it by 4 o'clock today.
Yes, we confused.
There's good options for discussion with my family and my key people at work.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of finding and focus elsewhere.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I don't mind that idea. Try it before you buy it scenario. I like that idea as well.
Yeah.
Your idea about the total buy-in of the people in the business, the share offering. I get there's a lot of things to look at. So my mind's open.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Beautiful. So what we're going to do now to finish off this round is just do a bit of a statement of gratitude towards what you've heard today around Mark and the way he runs his business from our panel. And it's based on the writings of Nancy Klein, and that when we are in a state of feeling grateful or valued, we do our best thinking, essentially. So I'll start. So Mark, I really love the way, I love your girls, I'm going to call them girls, your girls, and when you bring them each month to Business Value Partners, they're so engaging and they're lovely, and so are you. And it's really, I can tell you've just got you've developed such a great culture within your team already. So, yeah, and I love you too. Yeah. Eddie?
I've met the girls.
Oh, haven't you? Oh, lovely.
No, look, mate, thanks for coming along and sharing. I know it's, someone was saying, Rachel, I think said she's shocked to be flown into the guinea pig, but the reality is, I think we're probably more on the hot seat than you were. You've had to sit there, and probably nothing worse sometimes than getting advice from 6 or probably 8 or 9 people. It can be really confusing and overwhelming, and you've taken it really well. You've been really humble in terms of the way you've actually offered up the puzzles, and you've also been really, really good about acknowledging where you've seen some value on it, and hopefully you leave here today and feel it's a worthwhile exercise. So thanks for sharing.
I'll just say thank you for sharing, and I think for me, I'm really inspired by the care that you have for the business, but probably more importantly the people that work for you and what you do. And I think that came out in both examples in terms of that care for safety, in terms of the fact you're just wanting to keep getting better with regards to that, and then the care for making sure that the people that you are in your business continue to be able to be successful and care for and be able to build their careers. That to me is something I really took away from it and found really inspiring. So thanks for sharing.
Hey Mark, the two qualities I really appreciated, so I was watching you and listening to you, is your humility, because as you've said, you know this business that we get pretending after 15 minutes that we know anything about it, or trying to understand it, and humour, because I think if you do have that sense of humour, that's going to get you through a lot of this. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
In my banking career, the best part of my job was dealing with businesses, privately owned businesses, where you're dealing with entrepreneurs who basically did exactly what you did. Started from scratch. They're all what we call authentic people. And picking on the points raised already, what they had in common was it's never about them. It's always about their people. It's always about trying to make a difference, not just in your business, but in the broader community. And I think your story epitomised that. So
Thank you.
And I've really appreciated your transparency, and just based on this conversation, this interaction, I can see that you're genuine. You know, we've not really had discussions before this session, but I feel like I could almost, open up and talk to you about equally anything, because you're quite, when you are vulnerable and you're willing to, and you actually put yourself out there, people warm and gravitate to that. It's a closed book that people find it difficult to deal with, which you are completely, the opposite. So being quite open and honest and genuine in the way that you communicate and share, what's going on, which is quite personal, let's be honest. Big round of applause for
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're emotional now.
Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. So, stay there for a moment. So, just before we wrap up and go for a break, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we did have actually 2 rounds which were a little bit different. So the first round with our OH&S question was very much in a consultative
But let's
advice.
ask them. Let's ask them.
Oh.
Let's ask them.
Okay.
Interesting to see whether they even know.
Did you notice the difference? Oh, you did? Yeah? No? Maybe? Yeah? What was the difference?
When you changed the slide, there was another question.
Yeah. Any other differences?
Did you sense a difference, Mark? In the way we handled the 2 rounds?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. One was more structured advice, and one was more emotive, I think, and if that's a word for it.
Yeah.
Which one helped you more?
Yeah.
I think they're equal. Yeah. But like I said, I have been down the path of getting so ready, and I've heard a lot of this before, and I just wanted to get some other opinions on that. But certainly on the safety, risk, compliance issue, there's a lot to take in. A lot. So, like I want to watch it all again and just so I can absorb it more. So it's a little bit bombarding. Yeah. So.
Hopefully Robert's notes will help with that as well.
Who won the 3rd round, Rob?
She is.
Okay, so can I just get you to scan the Mentimeter question and just answer just your thoughts on round 1 and round 2, if you noticed a difference or even if you didn't notice a difference. Yeah, that would be good. It does take a while for them to draw up, but I can see I've got 11, so it is registering. 14, I've got 14 answers, so sometimes it doesn't, yeah, but thank you. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, it is 4 o'clock, and so we're going to have a 15-minute break, and we will set up the room.
Maybe 10, and we run into time.
No, we're
ahead of
time. Yeah,
We're all good.
Don't worry.
I'm sitting here.
We're on it.
There's a clock on your phone.
We've got a clock here,
Yeah, right here.
That phone's
Yeah, yeah.
calm
down. So we're going to have a 15-minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to have 6 round tables set up. So each one of our experts will be on one round table, and we'll run 3 round tables, one after the other, for about 15 minutes each.
Speed dating.
It is, yeah. So you can sit on any round table that you like. You will have the opportunity to sit on another 2 more. So don't be too concerned if you don't get your first choice. And we're going to talk to you about your own strategic questions about your business. So in regard to the specific area of expertise by the specialist sitting on your table. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions? No?
Take your badge.
If you can take your badge.